Great to have you with us. In our first story, one more person has died in the communal violence which broke out Thursday evening between two rival groups at Lekula near Daboya in the Savannah region. The second person was among four other injured persons referred to Wale Hospital after the incident. A family source who confirmed this latest detail to Joy News said the victim, Yakubu Amadu, died on the way to the hospital around Fumbisi. Health officials at Mankarigo Health Center told Joy News he suffered a skull fracture and was in serious condition. Eyewitness accounts suggest the violence was triggered by a misunderstanding over the construction of a mosque in the community. Shootings reportedly started after some young men transporting blocks to the village for the mosque project were stopped midway their journey. 3 of the injured victims, according to Joy News sources, have been treated and discharged. The regional minister, in the company of some security officers, have arrived in the area to ensure calm prevails. Let's go on to the phone lines for the details, and Eliasu Tanko is our man on the ground. Eliasu, what more can you report?
Hi, we understand that the Regional Security Council are, in fact, yet to arrive at the community. I must say that because of the bad nature of the road, it's very difficult, moving one community to another, or moving from the regional capital and also from Daboya, which is in the North Gonja district, to the area. But we understand that the Security Council is moving with heavy security to that particular area. We do know that there's currently some few security already on the ground, but we understand the Regional Security Council is going into the community with reinforcement to maintain or to bring calm to the area.
Tell us about the atmosphere in the area. You talk about bringing calm there. Is the place not calm?
Overnight, when the violence started yesterday, we understand that residents have fled the community to neighboring communities for fear of reprisal. This area is known to this kind of violence, and so residents are already on alert. Anytime there's violence, they all run from the community to their family and friends in neighboring communities. So as we speak, virtually the community has been deserted.
Right. Eliasu, finally, do we know who these deceased persons are? Is there any more information about them?
Well, it is not yet clear, like I said, because of how information influences a particular community, because of how underdeveloped this area is, and so we are not able to get the information as we wanted. But we understand this gentleman is called Amadu Yakubu. He was part of the gentleman. We was part of the people that were attacked in the community. He suffered a skull damage, and he was sent to the clinic at Mankargo, and they refer him to Wale. So we understand on his way to Wale, he passed on.
Thank you very much, Eliasu Tanko, for joining us with that. Away from that story, the minority in Parliament is accusing government of dishonesty in the figures put out on job creation by the Employment Minister yesterday. Addressing the media briefing in Parliament today, Deputy Ranking Member on the Employment Committee, Richard Kwashiga, claimed unemployment has gone up over the last 3 years and not down.
The GLSS 7 deals with the indexes of poverty by employment status of household heads and not the entire individual labor force of the population or the country. The actual employment data is, however, comprehensively dealt with in GLSS 6 labor force report. The GLSS 7 was published in August 2018 and not in 2019 as claimed by the minister. This clearly shows they do not know which report actually contains the labor force statistics. Again, page 38 of the GLSS 6 labor force report puts unemployment at 5.2% of total labor force and not 11.9% as claimed by the minister. This clearly shows that the rate of unemployment actually increased from 5.2% in 2015-2016 to 7.1% in 2017-2018, contrary to the claims of a decrease by the minister and the MPP-led government.
Stay with us in this bulletin for more on this story. We'll be speaking to our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, some developments on this matter. Before that, though, beyond the impact of climate change and trade uncertainties, farms in the United States of America are feeling the heat of a new immigration policy. Mass deportation of immigrants, mostly from Africa, Latin America, and Asia, has resulted in shortage of labor in farms, which leaves owners with little options. Prince Appiah just returned from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he engaged some interest groups on this situation. Immigration policy, Angela reports.
Here in Minnesota is this 1,000-acre land where Kaifa Dairy Farms is located, here in the USA. These are the sons of the fifth-generation Kiefer farming family. Kevin Kiefer is one of the children.
Farm, we milk 350 cows and farm 1,000 acres of land.
Getting labor for their farms have become very difficult. Kevin Papp is president of Minnesota Farm Bureau.
And the concern we have in agriculture is that our cows and our crops can't wait. When our crops are ready to harvest, we need that help, and farmers need that. Sometimes they only need it for 2 weeks to harvest their crops to help. Sometimes you need it all year to help milk the cows. So we have a very good, experienced, hardworking agriculture labor pool, but some of them are undocumented.
The situation spreads across America as immigrants are being deported en masse. The unemployment rate in Minnesota is currently around 3%, which means that areas like Minneapolis, that is a farming community, relies mostly on immigrants to work on some of their farms. But currently, the immigration policy by the Trump administration is pushing most of these immigrants from Africa, North America, and Asia out of the country, which means their farms are going to be affected.
The president has chosen to announce massive deportation raids.
The administration has been months.
The new immigration policy requires undocumented immigrants to leave the country.
In the U.S.,
Jose Delgado is labor expert with Altic.
There's two kinds of visas that are now available for people that comes and work for agriculture. But those visas are very limited. They are only valid for either 4, 6, or 7 months. So those people can apply and they can come here and they can do the labor that is required. But for businesses that are not seasonal, dairy, beef, pork, poultry, and swine, where you need labor for an entire year, those visas are not applicable. They're not viable. So then these businesses, they have to find labor whatever they can. So unfortunately, the people that comes here to this country and work for these kind of businesses, they don't have access to visas or, to have a legal status.
Apart from the immigration challenge, the construction industry has become more attractive for the few workers available than agriculture.
On a dairy farm, for example, maybe a worker will make an average of, $10 an hour, versus construction, those guys, they can make between $20 and $25 per hour. So it's a big difference. And agriculture can't compete with those things.
The International Federation of Agricultural Journalists, IFAJ, on a boot camp farm tour, understand the labor shortage faces many farmers across the USA. President Owen Roberts believes journalists have some critical roles to play in the situation.
but they have a problem attracting labor here. The media can help provide information, but the media, that's one of the roles I see as the media, is to provide the knowledge that farmers can use to find new ways to do things.
Meanwhile, Minnesota Farm Bureau President Kevin Papp says the office is working to change the situation for the better.
And we need to fix the system we've got to make sure that if you're here, you've gone through the process, you don't need to be worried about being sent back. So we're going to continue to be at the table and talk about how can we make agriculture labor better, not only for the farmers, but for all the rural communities.
Until these immigration challenges are collectively addressed, farmers will continue to grapple with difficulty in getting people to work on their plantations. Prince Apia reporting.
Let's go back to the earlier story where the minority has been speaking about the new employment figures that has been put out by the employment minister. And like I said earlier, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has joined us on the line with more on this. Joe, have there been any reactions from the majority to what Mr. Kwashiga read?
That is actually the clarification that we are all waiting for. And in fact, Mr. Kwashiga is asking the majority side of the House come out and clarify the figures, and particularly asking government to come again, because particularly with the Planting for Food and Jobs program, he describes the figures that the minister put out as dubious.
Sorry, Joseph, I'm losing you there. You were speaking about the Planting for Food and Jobs figures.
Yes, for him, those figures have actually been put out before when the NPP administration, a year after they came into power, and a lot of it was actually described as phantom jobs which did not exist. And for him, it's exactly a repetition of that the employment minister is doing again. He cites the collapse of the banks as evidence that rather, over the duration, jobs have been lost in the country rather than more jobs created.
Right. So beyond what was said, have there been any more statements that Mr. Kwashiga made? Right, Joseph, are you there?
Daniel, I can hear you.
Great. It seems my question was unclear. I was asking what more did Mr. Kwashiga say?
Well, he says that what has been seen is a situation where people who were in jobs were actually taken out and replaced with NPP fanatics, he claims. And that is what he says the NPP administration is using to create the impression that there have actually been more jobs created, when it's just a case of people who have been existent already being fired and others being brought in. And he makes the point that what the government is doing is actually more of an insult to the ordinary people who are actually unemployed, which he thinks is completely insensitive, and is asking the government to come out with more realistic methods of creating more jobs instead of relying on what he says are their failed flagship programs, which haven't delivered any jobs over the last 3 years.
So, Joseph, what else has been going on the floor this morning?
This morning it's mainly been about the press conference by the minority,
okay.
Even as the House prepares to return from its break in the next month or so.
Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, for that update. Now, away from that, the Ghana Grand Tour experienced its most challenging day of riding as His Excellency Ian Walker and his riding partner Joel Downham first endured the steep hills and valleys of the Dambai-Jasikan Road, followed by the infamous potholes and craters of the 20-kilometer Jasikan-Hohoe stretch. For the riders, it was a grueling test of strength, stamina, and willpower. But for the residents of Jasikan and Hohoe, this is a long-standing gauntlet they have been forced to endure for over 20 years. Kojo Yankson traveled along the stretch with the Ghana Grand team.
This is the infamous Hohoe-Jasikan stretch of the Eastern Corridor. I doubt there is a worse road in any part of Ghana connecting two cities. Now, first let me point to this. This is somebody's private project. This is some construction work going on. That has nothing to do with this road construction. Just needed to point that out for you, just in case you see it in the background and you consider it to be the beginning of some kind of work. No, there's no such thing. This road has been in this state for decades. I've spoken to locals who tell me that for at least 20 years, this road has been this bad. Traveling from Jasikan to Hohoe shouldn't take 20-25 minutes. But thanks to the horrible state of this road, the Ghana Grant just spent an hour and a half trying to make its way across. Now you can see that this is a road that has been given to the Cocoa Board, one of the cocoa roads. Working with the Ghana Highway Authority, this is a project to fix 20 kilometers of this road. 20 kilometers of the worst, most undulating, pothole, crater-riddled, waist-jerking, bone-shaking road that you can find anywhere in this country. Those who live in either of these two towns, Hohoe or Jasikan, in order for them to either trade, visit, travel to each other, this is the nightmare they have to endure.
From Peki to Jasikan. As I'm speaking to you now, the time Mahama was at the present, he promised that he would do the road. The road was continuing immediately. At the end, the time he just left from the seat, the road just, be there as if there's no any present in this country. So as I'm speaking to you now, if we go to Accra and go and take goods from Accra and bring it to Hawaii, sometimes we need to take like 3 hours or 2 hours. We take 4 hours, 5 hours to Accra. And now the cars too, we need to take goods from Accra to here. The cars don't want to come to Volta region again. But meanwhile, if you come to Volta region, this is the politician, this is the town that they are becoming from before they go to Accra. But when they just go to Accra and they sit down at the parliament, they forget us. At the end of the day, we just hear from there that the election is coming back again. As I speak, our president came here in Howard Constitution to promise us that 3 months this road will be fixed.
When was he here?
He was here last year. He was here last year to promise us that in 3 months we shouldn't worry, the road will be fixed. As I speak now, look, yourself, you go throughout the road in the Volta region. Look at how the road is very, very bad. So I don't know what is wrong with these politicians. I think this is the time now. The police, the Hawaii Constitution and the people, they fed up about the politicians. Promise fail. Now they are going to think twice, not voting for someone who come and deceive them and go back. So I think now Hawaii and beyond Volta region, I think they are thinking wise.
So the president made a promise to the people of Hohoe that in 3 months the road will be fixed.
Yes.
And that was over a year ago.
Yes.
All right. Well, the president watches this. So I want you to speak to him directly. Look into the camera, speak to the president. Start with Dear Nanado and tell him how you feel about this.
Nanado, I'd like to make my impress towards this road this morning or this afternoon to you that we are appealing to you. You came here in Hawaii, in the Volta region, especially Hawaii RC Park, to take mic and promise for yourself that within 3 months this road will be fixed. As I'm speaking to you now, you President Nanado, as you are passing by, go to Jaskai at Oti region. You didn't pass through this Volta region road again. You passed through Pando to Dambai before you went to Oti region. So I'm appealing to you, yourself that promised us. So you need to come out and do something. Without that, I think election time, you will not blame us again. That's what I have for you. So when you are listening to me, you, Nanado, we beg you, you are the president of Ghana. You are the head. So when you are listening to me, we take God beg you. If you want us to vote for you so that you continue 2020, we need this road to be fixed before 2020.
Still live on Join You today with me, Daniel Dazen. Now, up ahead in the bulletin, police in Ashanti region arrest 128 drivers in a special exercise to clamp down on commercial vehicles with unapproved seating capacity. Details after this break. Thanks for staying with us. Now, police in the Ashanti region have arrested 128 drivers in a special exercise to clamp down on commercial vehicles with unapproved seating capacity. The ongoing operation is jointly being undertaken by Kumasi Metropolitan Transport and Traffic Department, MTTD, and the Regional Police Command. Police affected vehicles, mostly Kia Prego minivans, recording high casualty rates in the event of accidents. That's what the police have been telling us. Now, Regional MTTD Commander Emmanuel Edubuahin believes the crackdown is part of the effort to end flagrant violation of road traffic regulations. Prince Apia has more.
Good. This morning we are going on a small operation, and we will undertake a series of them as we go along.
The operation saw police personnel position themselves at Swami, Edum and Asokwa to track vehicles which carry 15 passengers instead of 12. It is dubbed Operation Make Passengers Comfortable in Public Transport. Superintendent Emmanuel Edubuahin is the MTTD Regional Commander.
And these are the figures that we had, or the number of arrests made so far. Central, or I'll put it like Edum, we had 39 vehicles. Swami, we have 59, and then Asokwa, 30. So in total, for now, we have 128 drivers of vehicles that were arrested in respect of the operation that was carried out this morning. And the offenses that we are, or the offense that we are now limiting ourselves to was taking greater number of persons than what they are supposed to take, and then failing to provide proper sitting accommodation, which you can get it from the regulation 137, as it was indicated. But notwithstanding these things, we also have to look at other issues as to whether or not the driver who was driving the vehicle at that point in time was even a licensed driver. If he's a licensed driver, whether he's permitted by law to drive that particular vehicle, and any other related offenses that you can find on the vehicle or the driver.
Some of the drivers whose vehicles were grounded besieged the premises of Swami Police Station. Despite notices and warning on the exercise over a month ago, the drivers say they are unhappy about the development. Keeping us here is not fair. I think the police should just remove the extra seats and allow us to go. From 15 to 12 seats will affect us. We will only be okay if our owners reduce the daily sales. It is not our fault. If you go to the DVLA now, they will register the 15 seats for you instead of the 12. So this thing is not working. Superintendent Edubuahin says the exercise will continue until all vehicles are off the road in a bid to sustain the war against indiscipline on the roads.
We're going to go through all these things and investigate it properly so that we don't actually offend anybody. But after the process and we find out that the person is found culpable, then we process them and then continue with the prosecution. That we are not praying that there should be any accident, but in case it does happen, then the deaths and injury and all those things will also be minimized. So,
in a bid to sustain the war against indiscipline on the roads, Prince Apia reporting.
Now, the second mini clinic of the 2019 Joy News Habitat Fair comes off this weekend at the Wells Stills Mall. Everything housing will be on display for the greatest deals. At least that is what this year's exhibitors and sponsors are promising would-be patrons. Let's hear from two of our major sponsors who were on the AM show earlier with Roland Walker.
Again, Elegant Homes is offering 10% discount as usual. In addition, we also giving you a doorbell, a video doorbell. We're giving you free remote control gate and garage, and then many more, many more. You need to really visit us at West Hills Mall.
Yeah, the stands.
What we also do is to also involve the clients. So we have this tailor-made services where clients can bring their own designs, or we can design specifically to suit their taste. You also get the opportunity to choose from a wide range of tiles, our standard tiles if we are building for you, so that we give you a range. You select which of them you like. You have the option to choose your paint colors, or you have the option to also upgrade.
You go with a brand that you can trust.
Fantastic.
There are lots of brands out there these days, lots of them. Same way you have various sachet water from A, B, C. But I'm sure when you're picking something to drink, you know what brand you go for. We have been in this business for over a decade, and with that, it gives you that trust. With this mini fair, we are introducing our eco-friendly steel trusses.
Wow!
So apart from our roofing sheets that I'm sure you know of, we have these trusses available, and these are durable, they are lightweight, and they are also affordable.
Okay.
So for patrons visiting our stand at the fair, we promise to walk them through and then take their inquiries.
20 unapproved routes, no checks on goods being transported, bad roads, and accusations of extortion by border officials. That's in our latest on Porous Borders, the series highlighting the state of Ghana's points of entry. We are in the northeast region, from where correspondent Ilyasu Tanko interacts with some smugglers and persons who use unapproved routes to and from the country. This is his report read to you.
The Bunkpurugu-Nankpanduri district shares boundaries in the north with Gari district in the upper east region, west with the East Mamprusi, south with Gushegu and Treponi district. With an estimated total land size of over 1,200 square kilometers, the district is a leaking gateway with just 2 approved routes and over 20 illegal entry routes from Togo into the country. There is limited presence of security and law enforcement officials at the 2 approved routes found in these communities located in Bunkpurugu and Nankpanduri. On June 13, this is what we encountered at the approved routes from Bunkpurugu to Togo. John Larry is a commercial tricycle driver transporting Ghanaian traders to Togo.
Okay, so when you get to the immigration service, what do they expect? Do they take money from you?
Yeah, they are taking money.
How much?
2 cedis. Custom 3 cedis. The other barrier 2 cedis.
So when you're coming, you have to pay the same thing?
No.
And the Togolese officials too, they take money?
Yes, pay this 5 cedis. The other one 5 cedis.
Another driver, Gancon Collins, tells me although it's easy to evade border officials through the numerous illegal entry points, he always prefers using the approved route because security personnel will only take some money and allow him to pass.
So we have Ghana borders too, then Togo too. So anytime you are going, then when you come to the custom barrier, any bags you pick, you just give them 5 cedis. But only that they consider them take 5 cedis. But one is 2 cedis. But we always consider them give them 5 cedis.
The Oti River slides through.
Expect the full report on the pulse later today. Coming up in business though, why financial analyst Charles Mensah thinks cocoa buying company PBC has itself to blame for its current financial challenges.
Afternoon, we will commence the connection of the transmission lines, which will enable us.
Apologies for that sound bite there, and there's more after this.